people always ask me, they go, how do you know Microsoft doesn't care about Xbox? How do you know they don't care about the Xbox console? How do you know they don't care about, the future Xbox consoles or whatever the case may be? And it's easy to tell, right? And this news, it shouldn't really come as much of a surprise to anybody because you believe what's coming out of their mouth, what they're backing up more so than what's coming out of their mouth, right? Because on one hand, you'll have Sarah Bond saying stuff like, "Yeah, it's core. We care about our core Xbox fans. They're really the ones that we care about, the hardware, all that kind of stuff." That's hilarious to me when they say stuff like that for numerous reasons. But it's like, you look into how Xbox has kind of come about and how Xbox has sort of changed over the years, and it's really. They've changed and then they've kind of changed back or whatever the case may be. But, like, to those people that are still holding out hope, and it's like, listen, I'm holding out hope, but I'm not going to be stupid about it. I realize that, things are going a certain way and there's not a whole heck of a lot I can do about it personally. But even with that, I think that, just as a fan, I can look at what Microsoft is doing and saying, they've really kind of dropped the ball in numerous areas. And so I kind of want to get into that. Again, like, when you talk about an Xbox, I'm talking about a console, right? You guys might buy into their whole everything's an Xbox nonsense. That's nonsense to me. It is. It's stupid. First of all, Sony does all the stuff that Microsoft is doing, including the cloud stuff. They're putting their stuff on PC. But what do they do differently? Like, that stuff is an afterthought, right? And I think that's the best way to do it. You got to have that as kind of an afterthought or whatever. And that's the smart way to do it. You make your console fans feel like they're welcomed. You make them feel like, they're needed. And, I just have not seen Microsoft actually do that. And then you look at over the Black Friday holidays, and that's usually a time when consoles are incredibly crazy to see that stuff happening. You get a lot of good deals. Traditionally, all the consoles sell 1 million over November, sometimes way more than that. But it's kind of crazy to see how these kind of things work and how they end up. But again, so we can look at it like this: how do we know Microsoft doesn't care about their console? First of all, it wasn't on sale. They didn't do any sales for Black Friday or for November or anything like that. Second of all, we see that their Xbox Ally was on sale. They got $100 off. Their controllers have been on sale, right? They've been selling their controllers for, a very cheap amount. And, I think that really just kind of goes to show they really care more about, people maybe using their controllers on PC, using their controllers for the cloud, for these different types of things, rather than using the controllers for an actual Xbox. So, again, you have Xbox, right, who puts their PC handheld on sale, but not their consoles. They put their controllers on sale, but not their consoles. It's a real shame. And then what's the only thing that Phil Spencer was talking about recently, right? What was he talking about? He was talking about how cloud, grew 45% or whatever, it was up 45% cloud gaming or whatever. The funny part to that is that we realistically don't know what that actually means, right? So we're not really sure what that means. Like, at the end of the day, that could mean pretty much anything. Grew 45%. Again, that realistically is something that's like corporate speak. And they have to use this, right? Because otherwise, what else is growing for them, right? Like, let's just be real. Not that, like, Game Pass is declining, and we know that a lot of people unsubscribe from that when they raise the prices. Xbox consoles are down so low, they're selling like Wii U numbers. Even the Switch 2 was getting price reduction, like a $50 off thing. So it's crazy to me that Xbox gets nothing, and people just seem to, like, I guess, take it. I don't know. It's sort of weird to me when that sort of thing happens. But again, the things that Microsoft talks about, they talk about cloud gaming, they talk about PC, they talk about Windows. And to me, I just look at all this kind of stuff and think to myself, they're really dropping the ball on the actual platforms itself. Like, I've never seen a company not want to sell their platform more. And you know what? Here's the thing. If you guys didn't know this, and this is easy to kind of look into and see why this is happening the way that it is, but Xbox is very much, they lose money when they don't sell their consoles, right? So every quarter we see that, hey, they're losing money, whatever the case may be. And their loss leader is due to the lack of console sales, right? Their console sales are not. So it costs them money to produce consoles. It costs them money when they lose money when they actually sell the consoles. So again, they don't want to sell the consoles, right? And we can all kind of see that. And everything that they're kind of pushing now is everything but the console, right? Their commercials have nothing to do with the consoles. They've raised the prices twice, despite like tremendous feedback. They didn't do anything. They didn't say anything. They haven't given any kind of explanation, anything like that. And we'll see how this kind of stuff happens, in the future. Like, if they're going to be able to kind of go about and, get some kind of idea that they need to kind of change something around to get people interested in the platform again. Because right now, we're seeing things that basically aren't necessarily indicative of a company that wants to stay in the race, in the business, and that's unfortunate. And I look at that and I'm always like super disappointed, because like, here's the thing. When I do videos, right, I'll check all the sites, like Xbox Pure and Xbox this, and I'll check, IGN and GameSpot. And when you look at like the stuff that they're doing, even Xbox Wire. So let's look at this real quick. Like, Microsoft recently did the November update for Xbox, quote unquote, with literally zero update for the actual Xbox consoles, right? And then there was an Xbox Cloud thing saying cloud gaming with Game Pass is up 45% and it's now available in nearly 30 countries. But you don't get any kind of actual information, right? Like, that's the big thing, right? You don't really get any kind of information, and that's, I think, where we kind of look at how badly that is. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, here's the real numbers. So it says players are streaming their games more than ever. Cloud gaming hours from Game Pass subscribers has increased 45% compared to this time last year, and console players are embracing flexibility, spending 45% more time on cloud streaming on console, and 25% more on other devices. So like the 45% up, like, people on the console are doing this, right? So what you guys maybe didn't know is Microsoft gives away points if you play a cloud game or load up a cloud game on your console. So I don't think that necessarily, but again, the biggest jump in cloud gaming was people on the console using cloud gaming. So those aren't new people. Those aren't new subscribers or new users. Those are people that have an Xbox already. Maybe they wanted to try a game that was in the cloud, or maybe they were just trying to get the points or something. But it's not indicative of what they're actually using. But the funny part is the majority of the cloud usage, the improvement was from people who own a console, and they don't try to sell consoles. Isn't that, like, do you guys not see how ridiculous this is? I don't know. Like, I find it to be absolutely ridiculous the way that this is kind of handled. But again, like, nobody's really kind of answered any of these questions. Like, Microsoft realistically has done this for a long time, where they're not honest, and they don't answer like the real questions that people have. So the stuff that they're pushing is PC and Windows, cloud gaming. Their next Xbox, quote unquote, is supposedly just a PC. So how is that them embracing core fans and console fans? I don't know, maybe you guys can better explain this to me, because it looks like to me they're doing exactly what PlayStation is, but PlayStation still keeps the focus on their console and still manages to sell them. I don't know. That's crazy to me. Let me know what you guys think. I'll link this in the description. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.